Hi guys, welcome to video number 3 in my series about how to make an illustration step by step. This video is all about thumbnails, and if you don't know what that is, then that's a good reason to stick around. But basically we're going to take all of the brainstorming work we did in video number 1 and that new stuff we learned about composition in video number 2, and we're going to put it together and make some thumbnails. So stick around. All right, before we get started diving into thumbnails, I just want to make sure you remember to subscribe to this channel so that as new videos come out in this series, you can be aware and you can see how the illustration turns out at the end. Okay, time to talk about thumbnails. First of all, I want to show you my page of thumbnails, which also has a little bit extra brainstorming for the Faye Ever Fall illustration. I showed you that illustration in the first video. I'll show it to you again so you can see the difference. So here's the picture, how it turned out at the end. And here is my page of thumbnails. I did these ones in my sketchbook to figure out this picture. So let me just show you some of my thought process. So in the brainstorming video, I showed you my brainstorming notes for this illustration, and that I just had this idea about it being a fairy, and then it turned into a fall fairy, and through my thumbnails it came out more and more about this war between fall and winter. I used a pen for it to make sure that I wasn't like getting too detailed or racy or anything like that with them. It was just like the first thoughts that I had. So starting up here, you can see that these thumbnails are very not as detailed as these thumbnails. These were my first ideas. I was like, okay, there's two fairies and they're swirly, and yeah, the point of this is you're going to be working out these ideas as you go, and then you don't have to get to that point where you drew like this really awesome hand and then you find out that the hand is completely in the wrong place for your illustration. You won't have that problem because you already figured out where the hand was going to go before you started drawing awesome hands. So the whole point of thumbnails is to get your thoughts down. It doesn't have to be pretty, it can be very ugly. As ugly as you want. You can use stick figures or shapes. I usually end up, for people, using like triangles with heads. And this is just kind of a brainstorming. I'm not really thinking too much about all those composition rules and stuff. It's just whatever comes into my head. And usually I find out that a lot of it isn't working. That one looks like a fairy swooping down, and there's another fairy right there. This one has that sort of circular motion again that some of these had. And I don't know, I just was trying different things, trying different positions. I tried some pictures where it's just one fairy, not both, because it was my project. I could do whatever I wanted with it. This one has crazy winter and fall, which could have been cool, but this illustration itself in the thumbnail didn't look that interesting. Yeah, so hopefully you kind of get the idea. I started adding some tree elements in here to see what happens. And when I finally hit on something, so did all of this page, and sometimes I'll do a lot more thumbnails than this too. But when I got down to here, I did these two illustrations where there was just one fairy swooping up, kind of like a big fairy fall spirit, and there's a town underneath here. And then I realized if I took that and reversed it on the other side, it could be the fall fairy. So up in this space that I had left, that is what I drew. And that is the thumbnail that I took and made into this picture, which I can't see very good, but you get the idea. So all of these thoughts and ideas, when I had other like thoughts about brainstorming, I also wrote those down as I went. So there's one example that hopefully gave you a little bit of insight. Now we're going to just go ahead and dive into the Rumplestiltskin thumbnails. We have this brainstorming page, and if you remember, I also have that Pinterest board that I'm going to be playing with and adding to throughout the thing. And I feel like I have to say that because making video isn't super easy. I don't think I can show you on camera every time I add images to that board. So just go over to my Pinterest, which is like Pinterest/TailsFantastic, and find the board and you can see what is added on there and what I use. But yeah, so we have our brainstorming page. We read the story, we're ready to go. We're gonna start thumbnailing. For this instance, I'm gonna use my iPad. So I'll show you that. Before we go there, I wanted to show you that on Patreon for $5 and over, I made this download packet for thumbnails. This is something that I'm going to show you at the end. It's in the packet, and then I also have a bunch of thumbnail squares. This is for 11 by 14 illustrations, 8 by 10, 6 by 9, and 9 by 12. I thought those ones might be a little more standard. It's really like your illustrations are going to be changing sizes. But one thing that's important is, especially if you got hired to do an illustration, to know what size it's going to be at the end and start working now in that size. Because again, like if you're drawing thumbnails and you get something that looks awesome, but then you realize that like you drew it landscape and your picture that your client needs at the end is like a tall skinny thing, then you're going to have to cut off half of your thumbnail and then it's not as awesome and it didn't do any good. So just save yourself some headaches. Start at the beginning with the size that you need it to be in your thumbnails so that when you start sketching it all goes a lot smoother. I'm going to go into Procreate and pick a new canvas. I'm going to pick screen size, because the actual size of the paper doesn't matter for thumbnails, it's the squares that matter. And I'm going to insert a photo, and I've put my JPEG version of this 11 by 14 template on my iPad, so it's in my camera roll. So there it is. And I picked the size 11 by 14 for this project because it's easy to frame at the end, and it's also a good size for painting. Just keep in mind that like your end result, if you're doing a book cover, you need to know what size the book is going to be before you start doing this part of the process. Or if you're doing a picture book, same thing, like what size are the pages going to be, etc., etc. And I think for this we're going to go ahead and do a landscape picture. At least we'll try it. Luckily, since this is a personal project, I can choose what I want it to be. It's not for a client is what I mean. So just keep that in mind. So now I'm going to create a new layer on top of my template that I have. And I just have a sketching brush, HB pencil. It doesn't really matter what you use. And I'm going to start drawing. Here's my brainstorming notes. I think I'm going to stick again with the very classic Rumplestiltskin. My goal for this is when people see the illustration, they say, oh, Rumplestiltskin. I'm not going to be super clever with the time period or whatever. It's probably going to be medieval or fairy tale world. Let me just think. My first thought that comes to mind is we have this sort of dwarf character. He has a hat on. He's hunched over the spinning wheel, spinning. Here's the spinning wheel, which this is where research comes in handy. Well, it will come in handy later because I don't know off the top of my head where someone sits. So actually, with that in mind, I'm just going to move this over. Anyway, we want to kind of keep in mind like what these things look like, but at the moment it doesn't matter super much like what it is, especially for the first thumbnails. Okay, there's my idea number one. Maybe back here there's some like piles of straw, a brick wall. Thumbnail number one. So next one, I'm going to take this idea and then try again, but I'm going to zoom out so we can maybe get the miller's daughter in there. So we have our dwarf, again hunched over his spinning wheel. And And over here is the miller's daughter, and she's like, what's going on? Are you gonna get done in time so that I don't die? I don't usually talk when I'm doing my thumbnails. This is probably the dialogue that goes on in my head, who knows? And then again, piles of straw. I'm gonna try this one more time. I'm gonna move the dwarf or Rumplestiltskin over. Those are 3. Those are all basically the same idea. We might come back to that later. Let's try something different. The miller's daughter sitting, this is going to be like the same composition, but we're going to do it anyway. The miller's daughter is sitting at the spinning wheel crying. She's like, oh dearie me, I'm going to die because I don't know how to spin straw into gold. Nobody does. That's crazy. And Rumpelstiltskin is right here. And he's like, hello. Hello. This is his hand. He's like, hello. Oh wait. Maybe he's holding his hat. He just took it off to say hi. I can help you with your problem. So just whatever comes to your brain. Okay, let's approach this differently. I'm gonna try doing the big palace room. Maybe it's like piles and piles of straw up to the ceiling. And down here we have the spinning wheel, the sad miller's daughter, and Rumpelstiltskin. Okay, another thought is maybe, since it is the middle of the night, the miller's daughter is asleep after her crazy ordeal in piles of gold. And over here in the background somewhere is our spinning wheel. And maybe behind him is piles of straw. So you can see he's still working. It's not all turned into gold yet. And I don't know, over here there's some steps and the bottom of a door. So the nice thing about thumbnails is, first of all, you don't have to be a good artist to draw them, and you don't have to think about everything all at once. This one is kind of a straight-on view, close-up view of Rumpelstiltskin. And then, I thought, okay, this one I'm just thinking about if it's a far-away view. There's still a lot of compositions things that would need to be worked out if I wanted to try going that way. This one is probably the first one where I'm really getting some kind of depth. So we have a foreground and a midground and a background, which there isn't really any of that in there. Anyway, all I'm saying is you don't have to think about it all at once. Once you hit on this, you go, oh, this is nice with the foreground, midground, and background. Maybe I should try that again with one of these ideas. I do really like just having the creepy Rumpelstiltskin spinning straw into gold. Maybe. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to try maybe some different views of that particular thing without any other characters. Let's try, I think, perspective. Here's my spinning wheel. Okay, so that's interesting, but I think it would be better if he was moved down a bit. The reason why I like doing this on the iPad is because I can do this. Oops. Copy and paste, bring him to the next square, move it down and over, and keep going. If you're not using a fancy smancy iPad, don't despair, because you can do this with a piece of paper. It's not quite as lickety-split fast as that, but it's super great to just take your paper. You can, if you have your thumbnail that you drew that's like this and you're like, oh, it'd be better if he was moved down. Then, print out 2 of these, take your scissors, cut out a piece, trace over the top, like put it over so you can see through, right? And trace your scribbles maybe where you want it in the square better, and then you can tape that onto the paper that you've been using or keep going. Does that make sense? So you can still do it with this. It's not quite as fast, but it's possible. So don't feel like you have to have an iPad to make a good illustration. You don't. People were making good illustrations before iPads were ever invented. I just thought he was better with some space up here, right? And maybe a bigger pile of straw. So I think one of the reasons I like this thought of just having him is because I'm not the greatest at having close-ups of characters in my illustrations. I feel like it's something I need to work on. So since this is just a personal project, I can think maybe if I had a close-up of a character like him, it might be fun to have that in my portfolio if I can do it, if I can do a good job. So I'm going to take this same idea again. Let's just paste it again, bring it down here, and I'm going to make it bigger so you don't see the bottom of the spinning wheel. And I think I'm also going to make it so that he is hunched over it again, more like this rather than leaning away. I don't know why I drew him like leaning away, but he's just really getting into the spinning. Maybe there's some like gold threads flying over here. I have no idea. Maybe it's on a spool. We'll have to decide later. That's where, after you're doing some thumbnails, doing a little bit of research might come in handy. Okay, this is interesting, but I did it right in the middle, which isn't so interesting. Let's see. And there isn't any layers really. So there's no like foreground, midground, background. So let's try moving him over here. Just because then I can do my spinning wheels coming here. Flying gold or a spool. The thing I have to research. Again, that ended up in the middle, so I'm gonna adjust it. So I think maybe right here in front of his feet, we're gonna have a pile of straw. Maybe that's where he's picking up from, pile of straw. Spinning wheel, however they look. And over here, pile of gold. Thinking through stuff like that is what's going to help tell your story. Like the fact that there's straw here and gold here, and we see the gold on a spool or flying out. That helps tell the story, right? Because it says like, look, he's taking this straw, maybe he's holding some straw right here, and it's coming out as gold on the other side. We really are going to have to look up spinning wheels. I think he should be back here. So that might be a problem later, but we'll find out. Okay, so let's try this idea again, similar to this, but I liked that pile of straw right there, so I'm going to start with that. It's going to be kind of a leading element to the focal point, which will be right here. So here's another pile of gold, and then back here will be the straw. door and stairs. And brick wall. So that's actually really similar compositionally to this. I turned her around and made some differences, but I don't think it's actually any better than that. Maybe even worse, who knows. Okay, so I'm going to take that same idea again and I'm going to try it from drawing it from a different way. So if I'm going to start with the entrance, there's a door. Things need to make sense. So we have some stairs. Maybe there's a railing. I'm going to make it so we can't see completely over here. There's going to be a pile of straw in the way. And then, let's see, let's put the miller's daughter asleep over here. Rumplestiltskin right here. This door is obviously giant size compared to him, so I'm gonna go ahead and just make it smaller because I can. This is going to be better because we're going to be able to see more of the door and the entrance. Let's not put the wall right there. We're going to put a pile right here, pile of straw. Pile of straw. And back to our window. I like the idea of the window. Okay, one idea I had while I was doing this one was it would be interesting to have her sleeping in the background and him in the foreground. So I think that could work really well with this type of thing. So I'm going to steal that and work, change it a bit. So here's our pile of straw. And our other pile of straw, and we want the miller's daughter. We still want him to be the focal point. We still want that stuff pointing towards him, like I said. But to put her in back here somewhere, and there's this pile. She's back here sleeping. In a pile, her body's gonna go behind the wheel. There's something interesting about that. When we take this, I'm gonna try, instead of a pile of straw in the background, our stairs. Okay, so this story is more interesting with her in the background. So I think if I was going to go with something like this, there would have to be a lot of interest in the character's face and the storytelling elements around him. But it's also a little odd that the miller's daughter isn't there. So I'll probably want to keep playing with this idea for a bit. Hopefully you're seeing kind of my thought process, and you can see how, like, from here to here, my last thumbnail, this has gotten a lot more detailed and in-depth than it started out being. Even from here where I first put her sleeping in the illustration sleeping, this one is a little bit more in-depth as far as detail and stuff like that. Okay, let me try one more time with this. So I'm going to steal just this piece. in here. We'll make it even bigger room. So if the door, maybe we can actually see the whole door and stairs coming down. I'm not really sure what's going on back there yet. Okay, so basically same idea as this, but I just made her smaller in the background, making the room look bigger. You could tell somehow that they're like in a dungeon room. So this is a new idea. It might not be as complicated as the one. So there's like a little door and a long flight of stairs coming down instead of just a short one. There's definitely something nifty about this that I like. So I'm gonna see if I can get that to work some other way. Maybe this is a line of windows. Little castle windows. I have no idea. I don't know. That kind of takes away from that V, doesn't it? Erase. Maybe I'll erase these to see if it's working for real. Okay, yeah. We're gonna get rid of that. We're gonna make this pile of straw a little more V-like. So we're still heading right towards him. How do we get her in? Okay, maybe I need to. This is coming off this way. This is coming off this way. She's asleep right here. This dark shape is part of her. So she's going to be in there, but it will be dark. We'll still be able to see her features and stuff, but the value itself will be lower so that he is more emphasized. This could be like a mid value. I don't know. Okay, so one thing I was thinking about this. I like the staircase coming down, but I was thinking maybe could have it coming down in a different spot and have Rumplestiltskin in front of it. So let's go, I remember that I liked this shape right here. So let's go kind of try to do that, but in a different way. I'm going to try a different approach, and then I'll show you what. So if, I feel like I've maybe done this, but thinking about maybe like something where Rumpelstiltskin's head is big and silhouetted. Once I get like a good grouping of ideas, I go back and look at all of them and see what I like the best. I think that this one seems pretty good. I like, he's at a nice angle. You can see the miller's daughter and some of the storytelling elements in the background. Actually, so is this one. these ones are obviously all kind of the same thing again. So I like those two. And these, I do like this one that I just did with a very close-up. And I still like a lot of things about this one. So we have basically 3 different ideas. I have the idea of, you see more of the room, the miller's daughter's in the shadow. Up here you can see the straw and the stairs, and this one's sort of about the setting. This one is a close-up of Rumplestiltskin on his face. We might be able to get the miller's daughter back here in the shadow somewhere, but we'll see. So we're going to say this is about Rumple. This one, we're going to say it's about both of them. And the room. So I guess that's why this one is appealing. It kind of tells the whole, it's the whole package, where the other 2 are just pieces of the story, which none of that is wrong. But okay, so I have 3 favorites, but none of them are there yet. So I'm gonna take this one and copy it. Copy and paste. So that's on a new layer. So if you're not doing this on a computer, if you're doing this on a piece of paper, just take your thing and copy it, like with a copy machine if you need to, or scan it and print it, or you could just set it aside, or you could trace it. There's a lot of things you can do to get a copy. So I'm going to take that, and I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to copy and paste it. And I'm going to do the same with this one. Put them on the same layer. So now they're all together. And I'm going to go along, and this row I'm going to work on this this design and define it and see what I can do to make it better. This one and this one. I don't know if I'm going to record the whole process. We're just going to take this one right now and do it, and I'll show you what to do. And then I'm going to do the rest on my own. Maybe I'll just show you a time lapse of me figuring out these, and then at the end we'll pick our favorites and we'll go from there. So here we go. So this one of the things I said I liked is this shape, and I also liked these lines pointing to him. One thing I don't like is, I don't know, this shape is awkward, and this, like the actual people in it are awkward. So let's start out. I'm gonna put those shapes in again. I'm gonna move this side down a little bit, just so that it's more interesting. Right here, they're about even where the stairs end and where that is. Okay, so I'm gonna stick Rumplestiltskin right out there in that shape. I think I want to have her laying so that her gesture is pointing toward him as well. So that we basically have like these lines that are all pointing toward him. So she is going to be like here in the corner, sleeping. It's her head. Her body. So you can see the advantage of working like this. I didn't have to draw a person to figure that out. I just draw this shape that represents the girl. He is going to have the light on him, so I'm going to go back in and do that. So you can see how This is the same thing, same idea as that, but just reworked. And then in this one, if we want, we can add, I'm gonna do a little bit of light on her. So you can see that it's kind of creating a mood. That's fun. I do like that wall being darker. Okay, so now things I like about this, I do like it's a clear focal point. And this is a good spot where you can use your list. So let me find it. So this list that I made you, that you can download if you're a patron, you can use it to see how it's going. So could I make the focal point clearer? So that's one of the reasons I changed that. I like that the focal point is clearer. Did I include big, medium, and small elements throughout the composition? Obviously there's big piles of straw, and then he's kind of a medium size, and the windows are small. So one thing is, she is kind of the same size as him. So if we were gonna do this again, which we are, I would try maybe making her a little bit bigger. She is in the foreground, so she's gonna be a lot closer up. So let's try that. So the easiest way to do that is to copy and paste and bring this over here. So I don't get confused, gonna merge that down to the same layer, and I'm just gonna take my pencil and I'm gonna say this shape is bigger. She's asleep right here. She takes up this much space instead. Just kind of see how I like that. I feel like the straw needs to. Okay. So that's just something, when I ask myself the question, I'm like, okay, I could try this. One thing is also like this shape, him, the Rumplestiltskin, and that shape, they're kind of the same size too. So how can I fix it? Let's try making this foreground one a little bit. I still want it to overlap him, but I'm just gonna try making it a little bit smaller. Maybe he could be a little bit bigger. Actually, let's try that. So the nice thing about this, or if you made a copy on a piece of paper, is I can mess with this one, but this one that I liked is still over there. So if he's a little bigger, I don't know. Do I like that? I'm not sure. So he's more in the foreground towards us. I think this one's nice. It has foreground, midground, and background. This one still has that, but it feels off now. I think maybe the stairs need to change. I'm not sure. I'm gonna try doing that again, but not quite as much. Here are the finished thumbnails, or I guess you could say finished. Basically, I feel good about where I've gotten them to a good point and ready to move forward. So we're going to move forward with 3 of them. We're going to take this one, and this one. In the next video, we'll take those thumbnails and turn them into comps, so stay tuned for that. I also wanted to mention a few resources that you can use that can help you with your thumbnails, learn more about thumbnails, and see how other artists do it. So the first one is the thumbnail video by BLAISE'S. He's talking about animation in it, but I really enjoyed looking at his process and seeing how that could apply to illustration. And then I also will post below the video some links. One of them is to the Muddy Colors website to a post that I really like about thumbnails, and the other one is to a Pinterest board that I made that's all about thumbnails as well. So look for those below this video, and if you want to download these templates, don't forget to go to patreon.com/talesfantastic, and you can download them if you become a $5 or higher patron. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much. Hey guys, don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to head over to talesfantastic.com, you can sign up for the newsletter, which comes every 2 weeks and is full of awesome advice on creativity, and it has a free story download in it. Thanks so much for watching.